Hi, I'm GM Matthew Sadler.
And I'm WIM Natasha Regan. This video is a little bit different. It's the start of a new series where we look at games of chess that have been inspired by AlphaZero. And to kick us off, get the ball rolling, we are looking at a game of Grandmaster Matthew Sadler. And it's a game he's played in the Four Nations Chess League, which was held in the English town of Daventry in February this year. And it was against a talented young English IM called Andrew Horton. The opening was inspired by an AlphaZero game. Some of you might be familiar with the AlphaZero game we called Exactly How to Attack. And in that game, AlphaZero offered the sacrifice of no less than 7 different pawns. This was a very exciting game, and you'll see some of AlphaZero's attacking themes played by Matthew. At the end of this video, we will show you an AlphaZero game, how AlphaZero handles the black side of this system.
Yeah, plenty of stuff to look at, so let's get into it. Okay, let's have a look at this game then. So, yeah, before the game, I spotted that that Andrew played a certain variation, and that might give me the chance to play just like AlphaZero. So, yeah, I was quite keen to try that. Never actually played this line before, I think, as white.
This match was Guildford against 3Cs, and it was board 2.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah, I play for Guildford. I've done for quite a few years now, and Andrew plays for the 3Cs. So knight f3, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, and now queen c2. So this is a sort of an anti-Nimzo-Indian. White, I mean, black does the standard Nimzo-Indian stuff of swapping off his dark squared bishop for white's knight, but, well, by avoiding committing the pawn to d4 too early, white gains a lot of flexibility. I mean, in the central structure, you know, that pawn can maybe stay where it is to leave the long diagonal open, a1, h8, or it can come to d3, for example, and support e2 to e4. So, oh, as you saw, my computer was impatient. Castles, a3, bishop c3, and then queen c3. And here Andrew played d6, which is still following a number of games between AlphaZero and Stockfish. And here I played AlphaZero's move, which was b4. Just a generally good move, gaining space on the queen side, taking control of some dark squares, and obviously freeing the a1 h8 diagonal for the bishop. So Andrew played a5, which is also what Stockfish played, and here I played a move which I'm not sure I would have played myself normally, but well, I was following AlphaZero's strategy in this position. So I played e3.
So AlphaZero likes to put its bishop on e2 and the pawn on e3 in these lines. Stockfish doesn't play this way, and Stockfish tends to play g3 and the fianchetto. Yeah,
I mean, but both approaches are completely valid. I mean, what's nice about playing the pawn on e3 is that you gain some control of the d4 square. You're very, very flexible in the center still, you know, and yeah, there's a number of fine games with AlphaZero, you know, playing from this structure. Now, in the famous game, Exactly How to Attack, Stockfish took some immediate action here. Interesting idea, actually, and played this idea. Just hoping to get knight takes g5, queen g5, get the queen active on the king side, and stop white from developing properly. And but AlphaZero reacted with well, the first of, as Natasha said, 7 pawn sacrifices by offering this this f3 pawn, playing d4, queen f3, and rook g1, and well, just kept on sacrificing pawns in a quite astounding sacrificial game. Really, I think one of the greatest attacking games ever played. So obviously, I would have been quite happy to have that, but Andrew played a more normal move, b6.
And here, Matthew played an AlphaZero move, which was b5, which came as a surprise to black. And this follows AlphaZero's plan of targeting the c6 square as soon as black plays b6 after black's already played d6.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, this is not a move that I would normally play. I mean, the thing about a move like b5 is that you do actually lose something because you're no longer able to open the queenside as easily. But AlphaZero is always doing this and always exploiting in the end the weakness of the c6 square. So I thought, well, let's try it. Yeah, again, it's one of those examples, I think, where looking at how AlphaZero plays, it just gives you an extra tool in your chess toolbox, because I would not normally have played a move like b5. So Andrew continued developing as flexibly as possible, actually. So avoided committing any pawns in the centre for now, and just played just some piece developing moves, and basically waited for me to commit myself in the centre. And just in the last couple of moves, I was starting to get really interested in a possible idea. I thought I'd wait just one more move, but then when my opponent didn't commit any pawns in the centre, I thought I'd go for it. So I played here knight d4. And yeah, I mean, this is an idea that's only possible in actual fact because White has not committed his d pawn early to d4, and it's actually got the idea of being a pawn sacrifice. So after e5, chasing away the knight, White plays knight c6, takes, knight b8. I could try and hold on to that pawn, but I'm never going to manage it in the long term. But the idea is to play f4, knight c6, and now rook f3.
And here White's a pawn down, but has the two bishops against the two knights. And so it's not that easy for black to find any kind of decent plan here, because if black pushes the central pawns, then that opens up the diagonals for White's bishops to become even more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, my Stockfish engine on my PC is not super impressed. It says minus 0.5, so minus half a pawn for White. But it is, I think in a practical game, it is quite tricky to sort of get to grips with the black position and work out, how do I play? Because, essentially White's going to activate the rooks and then start looking, either playing with the rooks in front of the pawns or even start playing stuff like g4 and g5. And I'm just going to see which weaknesses I can get out of the black position. And yeah, I mean, however black places its pawns, because I've got the two bishops, and if black places the pawns on dark squares, then I'll use my light squared bishop to invade. And if black puts all the pawns on light squares, then I'll use my dark squared bishop. So it's just a tough one, I think, from a practical point of view. But obviously, the impressive thing about AlphaZero's games is that it's actually doing it against Stockfish, can defend such positions really, really well. But Andrew did a pretty good job, actually. He played e takes f4, so giving up the centre, but freeing the knight on c6 to move around. I went rook f1. Yeah, I mean, if black takes on e3, I take back with a rook, and then I'll have a big sacrifice on f6. So black didn't go for that. Black just played solidly with knight fd7. And I suppose that around here the sort of manoeuvring phase starts. So I've got I've got a bit more mobility. I've got a bit more space. I've got two bishops. Black hasn't really got a way of getting at my position, but black's very, very solid, and
a pawn up,
and a pawn up as well. That's right, So it's not very clear really, what the next step should be. So essentially, I tried to copy how AlphaZero plays these positions, to play around, attack stuff, and try and eke out extra little weaknesses in the position. And I've got a long-term idea about one particular pawn that I want to place somewhere. So
have a little think and guess which pawn Matthew's going to be pushing.
Exactly. So first plan I was quite reasonably pleased with. Bishop c2 here. So black's played f6 to block the long diagonal, put the pawns on dark squares. So my light squared bishop is now aiming towards h7. Rook e8, h3. Just a calm little move. No need to do anything too too aggressive at the start. And now I started to sort of attack stuff, just to, and rook e4, just trying to disrupt the black pieces. Actually, I made actually, if you look at the game with an engine, you'll see that I made a few inaccuracies along the way, that, I actually placed my pieces on slightly, awkward squares. But my opponent didn't see it. I mean, that's the sort of thing why it's so difficult to play these games against engines. But against humans, we don't always spot all those things right at that moment. So Queen d8, d4. It's a shame to block the long diagonal, but I have to get rid of that knight on e5. It's a great piece. And rook g4. So not exchanging pieces for now, just keeping all the pieces and just trying to do my best. And rook g3. I didn't want to play e4 because that would block the light squared diagonal, and I thought I might still be able to get some extra weaknesses from that.
Already, black's pieces are looking a little bit more cramped than white's, and we'll see more of that later in the game.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's hard for black to keep together, but my opponent was hanging in there tough. He was trying to he was a little bit short of time, but he started playing quite quickly. Just keeping the position together, not making any more weaknesses, and just asking white, what are you going to do? So Queen d3, just lining up on the diagonal. Knight f8, covering the knight on g6, and also the pawn on h7 behind it. But now this was my, I guess this was the first feeling I had of, I'm making a little bit of progress here. So bishop h4, attacking the rook on the 8, and now my bishop gets into c6. And it's sort of squeezing black, basically. It's just that bishop on the c6 is hard to get rid of, and it does really just cramp the black position. And it's quite a nice square for the bishop. It also it can come back to d5 or to e4 maybe later, and it also supports the advance of the pawn to e4. Rook there. That rook. I'm simply, to be honest, I play it because I can, because I have that sort of mobility. But that rook on f5 is maybe looking towards the h5 square, just looking to pressure the black kingside. So my opponent played knight gf8, and now it's the moment. It's the moment. Maybe you can if you guessed properly, then it's good. You've really absorbed the lessons from our channel and from Game Changer as well.
Here comes the h4.
I played h4. Yeah, to be honest, after studying AlphaZero's games, to much, really, a rook's pawn is now, just an essential component of any kingside attack for me. And, to be honest, you see that in some top players' games, most notably, Magnus Carlsen, of course. It's not going to finish black off. It's not going to lead to mate or anything, but, putting an H pawn all the way to H6, it's just going to make black's, kingside position rather uncomfortable. And it's going to tie down some pieces, to covering possible mates on G7. And of course, it's, weakening that A1, H8 diagonal. For the moment, though, black's, still hanging in there, just, chased the bishop away, then came back. And I decided to just to line up a little bit against the f6 pawn, and I think this was move 40. I think so. Black had reached the time control. Not very much time left, but had reached it, and nothing obviously terrible is happening. But here I was very proud of myself. Actually, I was really pleased with. First of all, because I really was inspired by AlphaZero's strategy, and I also managed to calculate it quite well. The point about AlphaZero's strategy with a rook's pawn, close to the opponent's king, it's not normally about a direct attack on the king side. It's about I'm tying down some pieces on the king side then to defend against possible mating threats. And that means I can invade round the other side, where basically, the opponent's pieces aren't. And I just, thinking about that, how could I do that? I found, a very nice way of playing.
So white's got much better mobility over the whole board. So Matthew started thinking about a queenside move.
Exactly. And well, if you can calculate what I saw there, you're doing very nicely. I mean, I would have to say it cost me about 25 to 30 minutes before I was really sure about it. And the thing that cost me a lot of time, well, I'll talk about that later. It was as always, whenever you take action, it always gets a little bit fraught, however well you stand. So I played this move c5. I mean, if black doesn't react, I'm going to play c6. And completely tie down that knight on d7, and of course that knight on d7 is also required to defend the pawn on f6. So black can't allow that. But my opponent took on c5 and went knight e5. So by getting rid of my d pawn, black's seemingly managed to get its great spot back for the knight again. But well, this is all planned. I took on d6. I mean, black took back on d6. Taking on f3 is way too risky. I can do all sorts of things, but queen f3 followed by bishop f6 check is going to be horrific.
And it's interesting that in the game that was being followed, the exactly how to attack game, white also gave up an exchange in that game, and to activate that bishop on that long. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of that. The key thing was activating the bishop along that long diagonal. That's right. So after c takes d6, c takes d6, now a very surprising move. Bishop takes c5, I'm giving up this beautiful bishop. But the point is tactical. After takes, there we are, coming in through the queenside. I play queen b6. And actually this knight on e6 is very hard to defend. The problem being that, well, if it moves, obviously the rook on f7 is hanging. And if black plays something like queen e8, then rook f6 is just going to be winning. But what worried me, it was all these lines with knight f4 where black's looking for counterplay to basically trying to give up material in order to blunt the white attack. And I was getting very confused with trying to work out how to attack and also how to the right way to get my rooks in. But in the end, I came up with an idea I'm very, very happy about. I played rook c3. So again, it's very typical. I've put the pawn on h6. I had this attack on the king side, and now I'm coming round the other side where black's got no pieces defending whatsoever. But of course, black can take this pawn on h6.
You push your pawn all the way to h6 and then abandoned it.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is always the risk, of course. Strangely enough, it doesn't happen very much in AlphaZero's games that the pawn just gets lost, but it is possible. But of course, it's cost black material and time to get rid of it. The attack would not have been at all the same if I hadn't had my pawn on h6. And here, little tactical puzzle. Just what's the cleanest way for white to finish off the game? Actually, it was there was just one little sub variation that took me a while to spot properly. I played rook c7, and looks obvious to go to the 8th rank, but this is rather more forcing. The idea being now that after rook takes c7. I've got this idea not to take back the rook, not even to go queen b8 check takes c7, which would not be stupid at all, to take everything with check, but even better is queen takes f6 check. And the key point about it is, well, there's two variations. If queen g7, then queen d8 check, I basically get the rook again, but obviously having taken the f6 pawn, which is pretty valuable. And the absolute key variation is rook g7. I've got this move. Can you spot it? It's queen f8 check, because after rook g8, I can take the queen on h6. It's a really nice idea. I was really happy to spot that, when I was calculating on move 41. So, black. I think black has actually missed this queen f6 idea. So black played king g8. I went queen d8 check. Queen f8, queen c7, but now it's really, really bad. The king's, cut off on the back rank. So obviously I'm going to be coming round the queen side again and going rook b2, rook b8 and just winning like that. Queen a3, but now actually, I come back to the king side. So I go queen check. The king has to move to f7. queen e5, and now that knight on f4 is pinned and lost. So I'm just going to be a rook up, and black resigned. Yeah, it's quite proud of that game, I have to say. In any case, I was very, very happy that just a few moments I was really thinking about what would AlphaZero do here, and even better, I even managed to play some moves that I think AlphaZero even might have wanted to play. Just as promised, just wanted to show a little bit about how did AlphaZero play against Stockfish when it had black in these types of structures. I found it, quite interesting actually what AlphaZero did. Well, first of all, Stockfish didn't actually play quite the same as AlphaZero. It preferred to play the pawn to g3 straight away here, which is a very normal and sensible move. And here AlphaZero played interesting idea. Played e5, bishop g2, c5. And after d3, played a5.
And here, black's put all the pawns on dark squares. Which is, like Capablanca says, if you've exchanged off your dark square bishop, then put your pawns on the dark squares.
Exactly. It's so that's really one of those rules of thumb that that Capablanca had. That actually is you sort of think, oh, really, that sounds very basic, but actually it's a very sensible idea. And there we are, AlphaZero just doing it all over the board actually, because also putting a pawn on dark squares on the queen side, and just really aiming to clamp down on the white centre. And there are this is one sample game in that line, and I mean obviously white is fine, but black's fine too. It's just quite interesting. It's just always fun to see how somehow whatever the position, AlphaZero always manages to get pieces pointing towards the king side. And queen d2 a4, and the game continued for a while. It was a draw in the end, but quite a nice thrilling one. But that's essentially what AlphaZero was looking for. And I think the fact that AlphaZero here got his knight into d4, that explains why AlphaZero as white liked this move e3. Just making sure that well, first of all playing b4 just to counter any black pawn coming to c5, and then playing e3. And I think AlphaZero was very keen to fight for the dark squares here, whereas Stockfish's plan was just based on activating its light squared bishop to the maximum. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that game. We're going to try and do quite a few of these inspired by AlphaZero games. So hope you enjoy them. And well, if you haven't subscribed to our channel,
then subscribe.
Please
do.
Please do. And yeah, if you haven't taken a look at Game Changer yet, well, please do have a look at that. And
yeah, and that's got our analysis of the game we've just been talking about, exactly how to attack.
Exactly, and much more, and a few more games in this structure. It's a structure that AlphaZero plays really well. Okay, thanks very much for watching.
Thank you.